Being great at sales is essential to your business and your career, but you and I both know that the stress of selling and dealing with constant rejection can be an emotional drain. My entire brand, No BS Selling, is based on the belief that professional sales is a skill and not a personality, and that to be better at sales takes constant refinement and a dedication to your craft. This show is for salespeople and entrepreneurs who are committed to improving their sales skills and getting better results, and are sick and tired of the BS game that often happens between buyers and sellers. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast, and I'm your host, Walker McKay. I'll help you and your sales team make selling easier, feel less cheesy, and be more lucrative. It's time to change the rules and level the playing field between you and the people you sell to. You're already good, let's be better. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast, and I'm your host, Walker McKay. And I'm really excited today to have one of my dear friends, Bill Cates, who's been on this show before. Bill is known as the referral coach, and he has trained, it's probably hundreds of thousands of people to grow their business by asking for referrals. And I read his book about 20 years ago, and it made a huge difference in my business. And now Bill has released another book. I think it's your third book, isn't it, Bill?
Is technically my fifth book, Walker, and the one that you read 20 years ago is long since gone. I've got three others out on the market now. But, we won't worry. It's the essence is the same, I guess.
Well, hey, welcome to the show, Bill. I'm so glad you're here with us. The reason I want you to talk about your new book that you've written, and the reason is because you've created a more modern take on sales and marketing, one that's relevant for absolutely today, because there's lots of stuff written about how to sell 5 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, but you have really captured what it takes to sell in today's marketplace. And so I am thrilled to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's always great to be with you.
So tell me something, Bill. Why did you write this book?
Well, I wrote this book really to handle three main challenges. I mean, we, as salespeople, as professionals, we face a lot of challenges, of course. But the three big ones that I'm seeing out there that I wanted to address are, and it riffs off of the referral process, right? Because we get introduced, we use that borrowed trust if we get introduced to someone.
Yep.
But that borrowed trust only lasts so long. And we have to make sure that our message, how we talk about the work we do, whether it's in an email or face-to-face or over the phone, is relevant to that person. So it'll attract their interest and compelling enough to move them to take the next step, whatever that is. And so the three problems really, one is we live in a world of marketing message overload, I like to call it. It's everyone is being barraged, including your prospects are being barraged by so many messages. And there's so many other ways that it's made it difficult for us to get through to people. One of the biggest things I hear people complain about is, Bill, just get me in front of more people, right? I can do my thing. I'm pretty good at selling.
Yeah, just get me face to face.
Exactly. Or phone to phone, or, right. Zoom to Zoom, or whatever it may be.
Right.
Exactly. And so first of all, as a quick aside here, the easiest way to relevance, the straightest line, I should say, to relevance with a new prospect is an introduction from someone else they already trust. Right? Yes. That's the fastest way to be relevant. And with that said, at some point, that trust lasts so long, and then we have to take it over ourselves. So the first big challenge is just reaching people because of the message overload and the obstacles. Another big challenge that we face is inertia, right? In other words, we reach prospects who are either doing nothing related to the problems we solve and opportunities we present, or they're just moving in a certain direction and they just resist the idea of taking a different look.
Yeah, a lot of times our biggest competitor is them doing nothing.
Yeah, them doing nothing or just staying the course, whatever they are.
Right, so the way they are, yes.
Inertia could be no movement, or inertia could be movement in a certain direction that's hard to stop.
Yeah, the wrong damn way, right?
Exactly. And, Sir Isaac Newton says, it's a law of inertia. A body in motion will remain in motion, or a body at rest will remain at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. So we have to find a way to be that quote unquote outside force, not really forceful or pushing, but
of course,
to be relevant, compelling. And then the final thing is I think we live in a world where people just expect the salesperson, the company doing the marketing, to know us a little bit more, right? With big data and all the different ways that companies are becoming, and the title of my book, Radically Relevant, we just can't get away with being generalists anymore. We can't get away with having a general message that we think is going to resonate with people. So we have to, people expect us to know them or know their world or know their industry a little bit more than what a lot of people have been willing to do up until
Let me stop you for a second. We've used a word here. I want to make sure that the definition is, I think it's probably a more interesting definition than what I'm thinking is. Tell me what relevance means. When you're talking about your audience, what is relevant? That's the title, use the word all the time. What does that mean to you?
Well, relevance is actually, like you said, it has meaning to the other person. Another word to use would be it resonates with them. Okay. They see themselves in the words. They see themselves in the story. They can identify with the message that you're conveying to them. One of the biggest problems that I found through salespeople, and not just sales, but just marketing and messaging in general, is we tend to show up as the hero. We're the person who can come in and be the Superman, Superwoman, and fix everything. But that's not what our prospects and clients want. They want to be the hero of their own story. And so we're the guide.
You're singing one of the tenets of the No BS sales system, which is go be the guide and not the hero, right?
Exactly. We're the Yoda, not the Luke Skywalker.
Absolutely. Let him get shot out of the air.
And I'll give you one other word to throw into this about relevance is the word empathy. People, when we reach out to people, the people we're reaching out to want to have a sense that we know them a little bit. Maybe not everything, but we know their industry. We know we've done a little research on their company. We even looked at their LinkedIn profile, right? So whatever we say resonates with them. It means something to them. So the brain is going like a million miles a second, really. It's every second, 6 times a second, the brain's going, am I safe? Where am I? What is this looking like?
I take medicine for that. Just slow down to like 5 times.
Yeah, sometimes we wish we could just shut it down, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
The Buddhists call it monkey mind. It's like this constant chatter.
I have a monkey brain. That's exactly right.
Brain, right. And so we have to be able to resonate in that way. And then so part of that's from research, part of that's, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, as we go.
Yeah.
That to me, that's what relevance is.
So, and I think we're getting there now. I mean, I noticed the subtitle of your book is Sharpen Your Marketing Message. What does that mean?
Well, what I mean by that is rather than being erring on the side of being more inclusive, we have to err on the side of being more targeted, a little less inclusive.
Exclusive.
Yeah, most people, when they think about the messaging that they're going to convey, either in a marketing scenario or a sales scenario, they tend to open it up a little bit. They go, well, let's make sure we don't forget about these people, and let's be a little more inclusive, right? But the problem is when you do that, your messaging actually gets weaker. It's not targeted. And so
give me an example of that. Give me an example of what a weak target, what a weak message is versus a strong message. Can you do that? Or am I calling you?
Yeah, sure. No, it's fine. So for instance, for my business, right? If I say we help, every business, every person on the planet help get more referrals, well, that's not as targeted as if I say I work.
It's also not true.
It's also
not only is it not targeted, it's also not true. Just say it, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, I do international work, but I focus on professional services for the most part. I mean, I've done work in other industries from time to time, but mostly it's professional services.
Yep.
And so my market is, and everything I talk about is all targeted to professional services, the examples I give. And then if I'm on the phone or in person or whatever, in front of a financial advisor or an accounting firm or a business consultant, then that message is going to change and get sharper just for them. And so I like to think in terms of visualizing a target, and we'll get into this, is the target is the market that you're going after. And you can have more than one target.
Yeah.
Although I don't recommend getting too many. And then in the middle of the target is the bullseye. And everything is geared towards resonating and attracting the right people. So
and the bullseye are your absolute ideals, correct? That's the way that
absolute
works?
ideals. And,
Yep.
and I'm using the term right fit client, right
Ooh, I
fit
like that.
prospect, who we're meant to serve, who loves being served by us. They appreciate our value for all the reasons we want them to appreciate our value.
Right.
And those are our business soulmates, if you will. And that's what I like to help people, is attract the right people, not quantity, but quality.
You're starting, I noticed, I love the title of chapter 3, which is the neuroscience of relevance. And that's the kind of stuff I'm really interested in, is how the brain works and how it responds. Tell me about how neuroscience can make a difference in how we attract and win more business. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah,
and certainly just one chapter is not a whole treatise on neuroscience, and it hurt my brain just studying the neuroscience of it all. But nonetheless, I'm fascinated by it. So a couple quick things. What we know about the brain is that it's constantly scanning the environment to know, is it safe? And then once it feels safe, we know it scans to, is there an opportunity? The brain is definitely built for action. However, a confused mind won't buy, right? There isn't clarity there isn't confidence, and there isn't action. So the brain also seeks clarity in its world. So how does that help us? Well, we know that solving the problems are a little higher on the scale of importance to the brain than presenting opportunities. And it doesn't mean we don't talk about both, but I like to lead with what are the challenges, what are the problems? Because the brain's looking for that first. And then knowing that, what are, if we solve those problems, what are the opportunities that spring from that? So that gets very tactical in terms of the words we say and the things we do, right? And so just knowing that about the brain makes a big difference. We also know that, and there's now scientific proof that demonstrates that every buying decision, in fact, every decision that a human makes is based in emotion. And I know 100%. Analyticals fight me on this one, but there's some work done by Antonio Damasio, who studied subjects the portion of their brain that felt emotion was damaged, and they couldn't feel emotion. So therefore, they couldn't make decisions. They ran their life on checklists and based on habits, but they really couldn't make a new decision. And so
fascinating.
Yeah. So statistics, and there's nothing wrong with sharing a statistic. And sometimes a surprising statistic or a glaring statistic is good. There's nothing wrong with all that. But what it does is it eventually triggers an emotional response.
Yeah. It may or may not, right?
Well, it may or may not.
You can have all the stats in the world, but if it doesn't trigger an emotional response, it doesn't help you.
Hence, it's got to be relevant, right? But knowing that, we have to make sure we trigger that emotional part of moving forward in the decision.
So I used to talk to my clients about this, and they try and use features and benefits or statistics or charts or whatever. And I said it's kind of like sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon. Not that this would be a good idea, and throwing beer cans in until you could fill it up and walk the bridge across. That's what you're trying to do when you're trying to show people the factual reasons why they should do something. It would take forever, and you just aggravate the hell out of people.
Right. And are these empty beer cans, or are these?
Well, I would hope that somebody's going to take that kind of effort. They drink the beer first.
Okay. Yeah. So, they might get past about 6 or 7. That's about it.
Wouldn't want to walk across that bridge. So one of the things I also love about what you've written this is you've actually written rules and concepts. I think there's 17 of them in the book. And I don't want to spend all the time, but are there 3 or 4 of those rules or concepts that are kind of big picture that the No BS sales team would really benefit from hearing?
Yeah, and I've covered a couple already, and I'll repeat them real quick. Is that the shortest route to relevance is through an introduction from someone else they already trust.
Yep.
And that also we got to give our prospects, clients a seat at the table as we develop our messaging. Another thing is that around what we talk about differences. So the rule number 5 is only differences that matter. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of talk these days of what makes you different, what makes you distinctive, makes you unique, and all of that. And I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about that, because that can capture the attention of folks, but it's got to be something relevant that really matters to them. Yep. And the better we know our prospects, our clients, our world, the more we can craft differences that mean something to them. So let me give you a quick example.
Yeah.
I was working with a bank up in New Hampshire, and this bank only focuses on commercial banking, and that's something that makes them a little unique already. And there's a benefit to that. But they had 19 of what they called unique selling propositions, not an unfamiliar term to folks. And it was really the features of the bank that they felt made them a little unique in the marketplace. But what they hadn't done is they hadn't translated those to specific benefits. So they could talk about these features like they're 127 years old or whatever, but those are just features that mean nothing to anyone until it gets applied and communicated. So one of the work we did is to translate all of those, right? Wow. So that every differentiation factor actually matters to that person, makes a difference. So that's one of the rules.
I look at that a different way. It's probably the same thing tackled a different way. And you said only differences that matter. What I tell people is until people see that you are different, they don't care, that there's no way they can see that you're better.
Right. And I would say also, Walker, ultimately what makes you different isn't necessarily what's going to win the business.
Correct.
I mean, it could, but what anybody wants, this is a B2C or B2B world, It doesn't matter, is they want to make sure, and it's logical and then emotional, are you the right fit for me? Right. That's ultimately the decision they want to arrive at. Are you the right fit for me? And if that difference or uniqueness feeds that decision and that quality, then great. You've got something that's worth using. If it doesn't, then it's not really helping you. And that's why it's good to have, more than one unique selling proposition, right? Because you apply the right one to the right person at the right time. That's about being radically relevant, right? Are you
getting, so when you're, a lot of what you're talking about is having data on your prospects. And most of this is coming from big data. Where are you getting this information, or just world experience? How are you knowing this?
Well, it's going to depend on a little bit on the business and your
Let's
marketing.
Pretend it's the bank.
Well, it's the banks. In other words, So the bank, in this particular case, this bank is a B2B transaction. Now, one thing we have to always remember is, and this is one of the rules of relevance, that businesses are made up of people. Mm-hmm. And so when people say,
it'd be so easy if they weren't.
I suppose. Well, if that's your thinking, then maybe you're in the wrong business. But, I get you. And the world would be easier if we were all alone, I guess, and to some degree,
right? Yeah. Or more people just like me. Boy, what a crazy world it'd be. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's boring too. Scary in some cases.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But so in terms of the bank is, what can they do? Well, there's different things. Certainly, if they're targeting a customer or a potential customer in a certain industry, you want to pull statistics on the industry. You want to pull trends. What's trending in the industry? What are the challenges that industry seems to be facing? And so one of the ways you can use that is when you're on the phone or an email or whatever with a prospective client, or even in your marketing messaging, I could say, this is a trend I understand is happening in your industry, or a challenge that a lot of folks in your industry are facing. Are you facing that challenge, and how are you responding to it? Mm-hmm. So by gathering some of that data and some of that research, and it doesn't take a long time to do this, you get some of it, just enough to be more relevant and knowing. It also, in the questions you ask, can demonstrate your knowingness about them. So first with all the industry, right? Then we look at their company. What can we find? If they're publicly traded, they're going to have the annual report, right? And to stockholders and stuff. And so how can we do a little research on the company? Just looking at the website, heck, I wish I had, $1 for every person who contacted me who never even looked at my website before they contacted me. Right. They have no sense of really what I do.
Yep.
They just bring this kind of generic approach to everybody.
Yeah.
And then to the person, look the person up on LinkedIn, look at their,
so how much
profile
time would
on
you
their
suggest
website.
Somebody spend? Let's pretend again, I'm that commercial banker, right? And how much time would you suggest that Walker, the commercial banker, should spend doing research on a specific company and on the person I'm getting ready to call? How much time before I actually pick up the phone and call them?
Yeah, sure. I think it's going to come in stages and spurts. And what I mean by this is, let's say it's our, first of all, if you're deciding to target a specific industry, multiple people, then I would say you spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Hours. But then once I'm reaching out more tactical, I'd probably spend about 15, 20 minutes just knowing enough about the industry, about the company, about the person that I can gather to start off with some good questions and some good knowingness about them to at least spark their interest. Hey, this guy, this gal gets me. There's that empathy a little bit to earn the right to the next step of the process, which could be an in-person meeting or a subsequent phone call. And then I would do more research between that call and then the next contact. I'd go a little deeper if I could. I'd go as far as I could. I'd ask people, I'd look at, see if I have any connections on LinkedIn that are in common, right. with that prospect. And, can you give me a little information about them? That's the beauty, of course, my body of work over the last 25 years around referrals and introductions, because if we're getting introduced to these people, that referral source, that source of the introduction can give us a lot of information, particularly related to the person that we might not be able to find anywhere else.
Yeah, sure.
So, how much time it's going to depend, and it can come in stages. It doesn't have to be all at once before you make the contact.
My experience often, I tell, and this will be probably opposite, and I'm happy to be wrong, but normally I tell
no right way here.
I tell salespeople, understand the industry, know the questions, but I tell people if somebody says, hey, call John, I tell people don't spend more than about 2 minutes doing research on John, because what often happens to salespeople when they have call reluctance, right, is they'll find all the reasons why they shouldn't call John. They'll look for, this didn't make sense. No, he can't do that. And so what I tell people is make the damn call. You need to know your general information, but pick up the phone, have a conversation. I feel like you can learn more about the person from the phone call than you can from their website, which may be outdated.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. You're right.
But you're talking about doing it the right way. I'm talking about using it as an excuse not to make the call.
Exactly. It's just like where we'll send an email when we should pick up the phone. Which is all the time. Right. Yeah. So if we're using it as resistance, if we're resistance to making the call, then I'd rather get on the call. And if you're getting introduced and someone says, call Mike, call Laura, well, okay, tell me a little more about Mike.
Tell me why. Laura.
Right. So at least get a little information. What do you like and admire about them? What's going on in their life, their business. And sometimes that's enough for at least the initial contact, and then go from there.
Yep. Again, if somebody's referring you to somebody, I want to know why. Absolutely. And tell me about them, and why do you think it's important we talk? Bill, you're such a sage. You've been doing this for such a long time. You've trained so many people. It is an honor to have you on this show. I want to share with you a couple of things that you have told me that really kind of stuck with me. It's really great. And number one, about the brain, how it seeks clarity, right? And that it wants to solve problems first and then go to opportunities. And I had never heard it put that way, because I know that people react more to a loss than they do to a gain, but I didn't know the neuroscientific way. I've never used that word before. The neuroscientific reason that had happened. So that's really cool. That's going to help me. I also like that you want messages tailored to the individual person as much as you can. I think that's super important, because I don't read generic emails. I don't listen to generic voicemails. I want to find how is this relevant to me? And I think that's really important for salespeople to recognize that every single person believes on one hand that they're special and different, and on the other hand believes that their life experience is relatively normal and other people ought to be like them. So we got this weird cognitive dissonance in our head. So we got to figure out how are they different, and what are the things that they're suffering from or worried about or upset about. And I think that's great that your book covers that stuff.
Yeah, great.
So Bill, your book is now available on Amazon, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
So that's really, really great. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you about your coaching or your training, Bill, how would they reach you? How would they find you?
Yeah, sure. Just website is an obvious choice, which is referralcoach.com. And if you want to just reach out to me right away and maybe do just a little bit of research on me before you
before you just call them. Yeah, don't look at his website.
Well, if you're looking for my help, that's cool. Send me an email, Bill Cates, Cates, not Bill Gates, we wish, but Bill Cates at referralcoach.com, and tell me you learned about me from Walker, and
he'll send me a big old fat check. So call him and tell him.
Exactly.
No referral fee necessary, but certainly appreciated.
Yeah, and white glove treatment if you're coming from Walker.
Damn right. Well, thank you very much. That's better than I treat them. So, all right. Well, listen, No BS sales team. I hope you've enjoyed this episode with Bill Cates. He is super smart. He's got a lot of experience. I love a lot of his beliefs. The book is called Radical Relevance. It's available on Amazon. Order it today. Would love to know your thoughts about it. A lot of things out there. I've got, y'all recognize, I'm moving towards a one-on-one coaching model along with corporate training. So if somebody's out there, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner or a higher level salesperson, you say, I want somebody to help me kind of one-on-one coach to grow my business, make me better and stronger. Send me an email, walker@walkermckay.com, or even better, pick up the phone and call me. You don't have to do any research. I'll do the research on you. Phone number, 803-917-2817. Appreciate you guys very much. Bill Cates, you're the man. Thank you so much for going to be on the show, and I will talk to you again soon.